Eddie, last time we spoke, you were the coach at Suntory Sungoliath. You're now the Japanese national coach. You must be delighted.
Well, I first started coaching professionally in Japan in '96, and I coached as a forwards coach of the Japan national team, and we won the Asian Championship, and I always felt that they could do a little bit better. So, getting towards the end of my career was a nice time to come back and try to give something back to Japanese rugby. Japan's got the World Cup in 2019. The team hasn't won a World Cup game for 20 years, so it was a good place to start.
You left Suntory on a high, champions. Was that a nice way to go out?
Yeah, look, we had a fair team. We were lucky enough to sign George Smith, Fareed Dupree and Donny Rousseau. Most clubs around the world would be pretty happy to sign those three. And we played some really good rugby, and it was good fun. And the only disappointing thing in the last season, we lost one game. We could have had an undefeated season. So, nice way to leave the club and now move on to Japan.
So now, Eddie, back to international rugby. You were involved with Australia for so many years, of course, famously 2003 World Cup final, and then South Africa in 2007. How different is it with Japan? Because I'm guessing you must have a lot less time with the players.
Well, there's so much to do in Japanese rugby. As I said, the record's not good. Under 20s is in the second division in the World Cup. The sevens can't make the top 15. So, there's all the structures in place, but we need to get some really quality coaching. So, that's one thing I'd like to leave at the end of 2015, more quality coaches in place. And then secondly, in terms of the team, you've got players from all different companies, all different universities, all different thoughts of how they want to play, all different fitness levels. So the thing we've been working on is just trying to discover one way, the way that we can win at the top level. And so that in itself's been quite challenging.
So what is the Japanese way?
Well, if we get involved in an arm wrestle, we're going to lose. So we've got to use skill, we've got to be fitter than the other sides, we've got to be tactically smart, and we've got to be able to play with speed. So they're all things we're looking at, and we've got to find a competitive edge. That's the main thing. We've got to find a way that we're better than any other team in the world at playing rugby. And, I think it's through attacking and through ball movement. For us, I think we've got to score tries. We've got to try to be the best attacking team in the world. Every team that wins consistently in the world has a very strong style they play, and that's the style I think suits Japan. Then we've got to have everything in the country cohesive to achieve that. So kids between the age of 13 and 18 must have fantastic ball skills. And then they must have a high level of fitness, and then they've got to maximise themselves in terms of their physical capacity, just like Spain does in soccer. All the great countries in the world that aren't physically the best, they have a way of playing the game, and that's what we've got to have in Japan.
Eddie, I guess there's some similarities with Australia in that the Australians have never been renowned for huge packs, great backs, of course. Are there some similarities there?
Oh, definitely. You look at Australia playing New Zealand and South Africa, we're never as athletic as those teams. So, generally we've been tactically smart. I was lucky I had a couple of really big centres in Sterling Mortlock, which not only allowed us to play with skill, but also to crash the ball over the game line. And we've got to find a couple of players like that can still crash the ball over the game line, then be able to play quickly with skill and speed.
There seems to be a bit of a gap with regards to Japanese homegrown talent. What needs to be done to change that?
Yeah, look, the Japan side over the last 6 or 7 years has grown in number of foreigners, up to 10 out of the 30 being foreigners, and that's given the side muscle, and under JK they played some really good rugby and really rose in the rankings. But to be honest, it's not sustainable. We need to find players in Japan that are Japanese, that can play the way we want to play, and also give dreams to young players in Japan. Japan, like a number of other countries, is struggling to attract rugby players. They're being seduced by soccer, by baseball, where Japanese players have done really well overseas. So we need to find some young kids, we need to make them into good players, and they need to be good enough to play overseas. And then there's a dream there for young Japanese players to not only play for Japan in the World Cup, but play in Super 15 or play in the English Premiership. And that's something we're really going to work very hard to achieve.
From a fan's perspective, spectators, rugby doesn't get the crowds it used to.
100%. The Japan soccer side played last night in front of 55,000. It used to be the national side that played rugby that played in front of big crowds, and the national side for soccer used to play in front of 5,000-10,000. It's changed completely, and I think it's part of it because the national side's winning and they're producing stars. Kagawa's now going to play for Manchester United, which is fantastic. So if you're a young kid now, you've got the choice of playing soccer or rugby in Japan, you're going to play soccer. Now we need to find young guys like Hawassa, like Fujita, who can play at the highest level, make the national side win, and then we'll have 30,000 people here.
Your young scrum half, Hawassa, obviously a Suntory Sun Goliath player, he's turning out to be a bit of a star. He's had some pretty good mentors. How good is he?
Well, he's very quick. He's got a good passing game, and he's got the ability to put people through holes, which is a rare commodity for a halfback. He's had George Gregan and Free Dupree, so he's been to the best university in the world in terms of 9. We sent him over to Stud Francais with George Smith, and he had 8 weeks learning about a different way of playing. So he's a guy I think that can really make it at the highest level.
Lastly, outside of the Pacific Nations Cup, there's very few opportunities for Japan to play test matches. How can the players get more experience?
Well, we need to get more test matches. In reality, every team that wins the World Cup has between 650 and I think New Zealand had 880 caps for the last World Cup. You need experience and you need quality test matches. So we need to be playing 10 quality test matches a year. The Asian Five Nations is fantastic for developing young players, but we need to play against physically better players than us, like the Tongas, the Fijis. We need to play some Tier 1 test matches. We've got Wales coming next year, but we need 10 of those a year for the next 3 or 4 years, and then we can get a squad to the World Cup that's got somewhere 500, 600 caps, played test rugby consistently, know how to win games, and then we can move on.